Hello. Read it here. Today we're going to read a story from /Am I the Asshole? Now, for our first story, am I the asshole for telling my sister that she's insane for not teaching her daughter English? My 20F family is originally from Sweden. My sister Kristen, 30F, was born in Sweden and was raised speaking Swedish and English. She and my parents came to the US when she was 10, and I was born not long afterwards. I was raised only speaking English. My parents did not bother having me learn Swedish because it isn't a widely spoken language where we live, and in fact, when I was little, they had a rule that Kristen could only talk to me in English. They did this because they didn't want to hinder me being able to communicate with my peers. I visited Sweden maybe twice when I was really little and don't have any recollections. Kristen, however, has a lot of fond memories from her childhood. Since she's moved out, she has regularly visited Sweden. She has been married to her husband, Eric, 30M, for about 3 years. Eric is also from Sweden and came to the US in his early 20s. Eric was also raised speaking Swedish and English, but is more comfortable talking in Swedish. They have a daughter, Elsa, who's 18 months old and learning to talk. When they came over for Christmas dinner, I tried to talk to Elsa, but Kristen told me that I can only talk to Elsa in Swedish, but not English. I thought she was raising Elsa speaking both Swedish and English, but she told me that they are not going to bother teaching her English. I asked why, and Kristen told me that they want Elsa to be connected to her heritage, and also because they plan on eventually moving back to Sweden. I asked if she had idea as to when they will move, and she said it could be 1 year or 10 years. I told Kristen that she is doing Elsa a big disservice by not teaching her English. She told me it won't be an issue as she'll learn it when she goes to kindergarten. I said that I can understand wanting Elsa to know Swedish, and if they had any immediate plans to move back to Sweden, then I could understand prioritizing Swedish over English. But since they don't have any immediate plans to move back there, she should learn both languages now so she can communicate with her English-speaking relatives in the US, as well as her peers and her teachers when she goes to school. I said that not teaching Elsa any English at all is insane. Kristen got mad at me and told me I am being xenophobic. I told her this would not be an issue if Elsa speaks English too, but because almost nobody around here speaks Swedish, she's hindering her daughter. She said that it's possible that by the time Elsa is ready to start school, they might have moved back to Sweden. My parents are mostly on my side, but say that they understand why she's doing this. And I was being harsh by saying that she was insane for not teaching her English and should be more understanding. I feel it is equally harsh for her to say I'm xenophobic. I think it's great to be multilingual, but one needs to be able to communicate with the majority of the people where they live. But now I'm starting to feel like maybe I was too harsh. Let's hear from the comment section. Comment 1. Not the asshole. They live in the US, but they might move back to Sweden, so they're not teaching their daughter English. That's actually pretty dangerous. For example, what happens if Elsa gets lost and she can't understand when people ask her where her parents are? Nor could she tell anyone who they are? Every little kid gets lost at some point in their lives, so this is not an unlikely scenario. In an emergency, how would, say, 3-year-old Elsa be able to tell anyone? I also have a good friend from Sweden, and she speaks 8 languages. According to her, English is a required subject in school in Sweden. So Elsa would actually be behind other kids who may have been speaking and or understanding English their whole lives. Comment 2. Not only is English a required school subject in Sweden, but there's a surprising amount of English spoken socially, especially in the South. There are some words where the English has simply overtaken the Swedish. OP's sister is in for a big surprise if she thinks it's just some minor phrases that her daughter will only need to know for a couple years. Comment 3. I'd like to add that the phenomenon is not even Sweden-specific. Same is going on in the Netherlands and parts of Belgium, at least in my experience. I'm originally from Hungary, and even there I can hear young people use an increasing amount of English words in everyday speech. Whether people like it or not, English is an important language, generally a bridge between speakers of other languages. This makes it essential, and non-native speakers not being taught English will have a huge disadvantage down the line, and will be forced to learn it at some point. And it is by far easier in childhood. I teach English to Hungarian natives, and my students are exclusively adults at various levels, And the one thing they all say is how much they wish they learned were properly taught English when they were children. And not just because it would have been easier, but depending on the field, a good command of English could mean better resources or more opportunities. Sure, other countries do better. Scandinavia especially is famous for apparently doing a great job. Never had an issue in Flanders and Netherlands either. But on the other hand, there is Eastern Europe and the Balkans who are still taking their time catching up. And because of all of this, I am raising my Belgian kid to speak Hungarian, English, and Flemish. It is a lot, but kids are smart and usually have no problem being multilingual. I've also seen this in expat friends' kids. It may take a bit longer to be fluent, and it is super entertaining when they mix them up, but by around 4 to 5 years, they have it all figured out. Comment 4. More info needed. To me, it all depends on when she's going to kindergarten. The same thing happens in Sweden where parents will talk to their children in their native tongue, and the children learn Swedish starting in kindergarten. After that, it depends more on their surroundings than the parents. In situations like that, presuming they're not surrounded by compatriots in school, and in general, Swedish eventually wins out either way. If the plan is to have the child go to kindergarten at 2, it should be fine, and it's not such a bad idea to inundate the child with Swedish early if you wanted to keep speaking it. If the plan is to have them start kindergarten at 4 to 5, then yeah, it could be a problem. Honestly, I think OP's parents did them a disservice by not teaching them a second language when they had the opportunity. Now, for our second story. Am I the asshole for not being reliable enough for my sister to use me as a backup kid caretaker in an emergency? Right now, I feel bad about this situation while also feeling some resentment towards my family. My sister lives about 20 minutes from me, near our parents. There was a family emergency where she needed to meet my parents at the hospital, and taking her kids wasn't an option. She called me up at 6:45 p.m. on her way to my apartment to tell me she needed to drop off the kids quickly and run. I tried to tell her that I was not in the right condition for that. She told me it was an emergency and she had no other option. I begged her to call her mother-in-law. She said that wouldn't work. When she showed up, she stepped inside my apartment to hand off her kids. Like I told her, I wasn't in condition for this. My friend and I had been celebrating her new job. My sister was shocked and disgusted and dragged her kids off, but not before telling me what a pathetic loser she thinks I am. She ended up texting me a novel about how disappointed she is, how upsetting it is for her kids to have walked into my apartment reeking of weed, how I'm 27 and should be over that phase of my life, etc. She ripped into me for still living with 5 roommates, not having a car, all this other stuff. It was deeply hurtful, and I just apologized for not being able to help her and the kids. Of course, I had no idea there could be an emergency like this, but you never know. That's why it's an emergency. Yes, I live with 5 people, but they're my friends, and we need each other to afford living here. I don't have a car because I can't drive. Weed is legal here, and it's not a crime to smoke once in a while. My sister said she was so disgusted with me that she brought my parents into it. They have all banded together to let me know what a piece of shit I am for not living up to anyone's expectations. I do feel a little bit defensive because I had no way of knowing this would happen. So I guess my question boils down to, am I the asshole? Because I was not ready for an emergency at my big age of 27? Did I really let my family down? Okay, I got the post to let me edit it, and someone told me to add that the reason I can't drive is because I medically can't drive and never can for my whole entire life, sadly. Let's hear from the comment section. Comment 1. Not the asshole. Why in the world would your sister think your home, with 5 other people, was even an option for childcare? It should have been obvious that she needed to find different options. You literally told her you were smoking, and there was really nothing preventing her from taking the kids with her. As for the weed, it's legal where you are, so if she doesn't like it, she can take it up with her state representatives and governor, along with the voters who passed the law. Comment 2. OP, I know your heart is in the right place, but try not to in her defense here. You told her you weren't capable of babysitting her kids, and she purposefully ignored you. A true adult would have accepted the situation when she walked out of your apartment, but she decided to keep pushing the matter more and more. Now she's berating you because you weren't just sitting in your house, staring at the wall, waiting for your sister to stop by unexpectedly. You did nothing wrong, and your sister is a huge asshole for her actions. She has 0 boundaries, and she needs to learn some respect. Comment 3. Not the asshole. I'd go ahead right now and privately tell all of them that at this time in your life, They do not get to judge unless they're paying your bills, and that they better come up with a list of emergency childcare that does not include you anywhere on it because you are not her childcare. Also, family drops everything for family no matter what. I'd reply with, yeah, unhealthy family with no boundaries who think they get a say in things not concerning them. But hey, you've got boundaries, so this shouldn't be an issue going forward. Comment 4. Sorry, but as a parent, it's her fucking job to think about this shit because it's her job to keep her kids safe. You literally told her you were in no state to take care of a kid. For some wacky reason, she decided, hey, the person who just said they're in no fit state to be a caretaker. Yeah, that's who I want in charge of my kids. That's 100% on her. This is made worse by the fact that your statements were less important than whatever her in-laws told her. Unless they were also in no safe state to take the kids, she has no excuse for why she didn't go to them before you. You made the responsible choice to tell her you could not do it because you did not want to risk her children's safety. She, on the other hand, was 100% willing to leave her kids with someone who literally told her this is not safe. She has some gall accusing you of being responsible. And she only decided not to leave you in charge because you looked fucked up. If you'd gotten yourself / the place more cleaned up, she would have decided against your own statements that you were perfectly good child care. She would have willingly taken a risk that you told her she shouldn't take. The only person she should be mad at is herself for risking her kids' safety like that. And she may in fact be mad at herself and just taking it out on you. Either way, you don't deserve it. And you really don't deserve your family ganging up on you. Your sister needs to take responsibility for her choices, and she needs to be called out for ignoring your warning, especially when she respected whatever it was her in-laws said. They are so focused on drugs, so point out to them that you just as easily could have been sick. The point is that your sister made an irresponsible decision that she's trying to blame you for. Now, for our third story. Am I the asshole for giving my daughter a car, but her sister's no car? When my daughters turned 15, I made each of them a promise that if they didn't go around our backs and secretly smoke until they turned 21, I would buy them a car, within reason, obviously. Our oldest Haley, now 25, broke that promise when she was 16 when we caught her smoking. Cynthia, now 23, broke that promise when she was 18, but later admitted that she had already tried it when she was 17. Both of them, fortunately, don't smoke anymore. When it happened, we were disappointed and somewhat mad, but we talked about it, again, about the risks. We realized we couldn't really stop them if they wanted to. They didn't seem that upset about the promise, and probably thought I wasn't serious. But our youngest, Jennifer, now 21, never smoked. She was honest about this, and her sisters also said Jennifer never smoked. After she turned 21, she came to me to talk about the promise. While I was hesitant, I wasn't going to break a promise I made to her. So I bought her a car. This did not go over well with Haley and Cynthia, who argued it was really unfair. And they are now really mad at me. Their mother, my now ex-wife, also said that I shouldn't have bought Jennifer a car. Am I the asshole? Let's hear from the comment section. Comment 1. Not the asshole. It seems the facts aren't in dispute. No one is contending that Jennifer secretly smoked, and no one is contending the wording of your promise. It just seems that some of your daughters don't like the consequences of their actions. You would be the asshole to Jennifer if don't keep your promise. To break your promise would be showing favoritism to Haley and Cynthia. Comment 2. Seems the ex is involved in whipping up the bad sentiments. Obviously, they can't afford to buy a car, and figure if Opie can do that for one, he can do that for all. If I was the other daughters, I would definitely jump on the bandwagon if it meant I could possibly guilt Opie into a free car. I have lots of friends who have split later in life and see this all too often. Usually one partner comes out better than the other after the divorce is finished and they're resentful about it. Little opportunities like this are a common way of making the ex pay some more. Comment 3. Not the asshole, obviously. Usually these kinds of stories go awry when the condition for the gift is applied ex post as an ad hoc justification. You clearly articulated that not smoking is the price of the car. The first two did not meet that condition, but the third did. There is no issue here. To deal with your wife, ask her if it is more fair to deny Jennifer a car, which would break your promise, or to piss off your other daughters. Someone is going to get mad either way. Might as well take the option that's more fair. Comment 4. Not the asshole. All 3 kids knew the promise. all three of them agree that only one of them met the terms of the promise. What was the purpose of the promise if you weren't going to keep it? You didn't even need to hesitate. You told all three children a clear path to getting a car. One accomplished it. Why wouldn't she get a car? If you had broken your promise, she'd never trust you again, rightfully. So now her sisters think you should break a promise simply because they, also knowing the promise, didn't benefit from it? Now, for our fourth story. Am I the asshole for giving my son $15,000 for his wedding knowing that it would not go down well with my daughter? My 50M son, 29M, is getting ready to marry his fiancée of 3 years. I know her, and I very much approve of their marriage. She's awesome, and I couldn't be prouder of my son. I told him that I'd help pay for his wedding and his mother, and I managed to put together $15,000, which should help them have a pretty decent wedding. My son announced his wedding, and eventually my daughter, 27F, found out from my son's fiancée. She called me pretty irate since money has always been a sore spot between us. Around 10 years ago, my son went off for college and my daughter went shortly after. My son went to a local community college and later became a welder. My daughter was always more academically minded than him and got accepted to a pretty great school in New York for music. Problem is, my wife and I made too much money for her to get many grants or scholarships. I paid for my son's community college in full, but my daughter's college fund would basically only cover 1 year of tuition at the nice school, and I'd be out of pocket a little for room and board as well for that year. I told her that while I am so proud of her for getting into that school, I don't agree with her going to that school since we can't afford it. She didn't accept any alternatives such as going to a local school or going to a cheaper school in New York. She said that she was going regardless, so I relented. I paid the deposit and she went. I paid the bills until her fund, $50,000, was done. She then started taking out loans for school, even though I advised her against it. And she tried having me sign loans in my name to help pay for her education, which I did not, which didn't help our relationship. Our son got the rest of his paid out in a bulk sum out of fairness. She graduated with about $150,000 in student loans. She worked for an orchestra for a while, but didn't make a lot, so she became a teacher in New York, but continued to struggle financially due to the burden of her loans. She frequently asked for money, which I stopped helping with 2 years ago. I once offered to have her move back home rent-free, but she doesn't want to move from New York to rural Florida. We cut her off financially. This has led to a frosty relationship with my daughter as she blames us for her woes, not taking loans for her, and not helping more with her college costs. She even had a fiancé break things off when he found out her loan burden, which she blamed us for. It all culminated with her calling in tears, blaming us for her financial condition, calling us terrible parents, and that since we obviously care for our son more, he'll be the only one we have contact with. We tried to reassure her that we still love her so much and we'd make a similar contribution should she get married, but that didn't help her calm down. She hasn't returned our texts or calls in a while, and we're pretty beat up about it. My wife especially is crying pretty often. Did I mess up? Am I the a-hole? I miss my baby girl. Let's hear from the comment section. Comment 1. Definitely not the asshole. Your daughter was also an adult going to an expensive school back then. Hey, loans are her fault. Her career path was her choice. That's all on her. You even financially supported her more than your son. Why does your son need to be punished financially for making better career decisions than your daughter? She's delusional and needs to accept her natural consequences. Comment 2. Seriously, the daughter needs to take accountability for her actions. She never once ran the financial numbers in her life before making big decisions, but she was quick to hold her hand out and say, "Money, please." She expected her parents to take the burden for her student loans and ended up becoming a teacher in the end. I'm sorry, but she needs a reality check to pay off $150,000 in loans. She's not even a doctor or has her master's. Just wow, I would have had a heart attack passing $50,000 in loans. She made her bed, and now she needs to lie in it. This is what being an adult is. She needs to roll up her sleeves and have a financial game plan. She needs to move to Florida for free rent and save her money. Parents offer her solutions so she can be better off financially. She declines and then complains that she's the victim. Comment 3. Definitely not the asshole. Your daughter was also an adult going to an expensive school back then. Hey, loans are her fault. Her career path was her choice. That's all on her. You even financially supported her more than your son. Why does your son need to be punished financially for making better career decisions than your daughter? She's delusional and needs to accept her natural consequences. Comment 4. Not the asshole. Unless she was insanely talented in music and had enough interest to get scholarships regardless of your pay scale, then she was stupid to go to such an expensive school and take out $150,000 in student loans. I say this as a former art student. The name of the school doesn't matter. What matters is your actual talent. Also, having lived in New York before, I can tell you she shouldn't be living there if she can't afford it. And working as a teacher with $150K student loans, she definitely can't afford it. She needs to get over her entitlement. She put herself in this position. She cared more about the New York experience and going to a high-profile school. Now she has to pay for it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see more.